For the next 45 minutes then, ladies and gentlemen, we are talking hotel grading and review systems. So let's get our next plenary panel up here. Please come to the stage, Ronnie Ronalde, Tim Keeling and Todd Basham. And to chair this next discussion from Market Metrix, the leading provider of feedback management solutions for the global hospitality industry, please welcome the MD Asia Pacific, Simon Haigh.
We've been asked to look at ratings. And I've got a wonderful panel here with me, which perhaps if we bring up the next slide, it will be a good time for us to get each of them to introduce themselves and explain the types of views and intentions they have in terms of rating systems. So start with you, Todd.
Sure, thanks. Can everyone hear me? Yep. Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Todd Basham, and I work for myself with my own company called Effective Tourism. And one of the clients that I represent is a company called ReviewPro. ReviewPro is a business intelligence tool that screen scrapes all the social media sites and all the review sites such as Booking.com, TripAdvisor, etc. 4 times in every 24 hours, and we stream that data down and we do semantic analysis, and we take essentially what is a qualitative process, i.e. somebody writing a review, and we score it and we quantify it, and we give meaningful, actionable data to a hotel and to a hotel versus the hotel comp set.
Good afternoon, everyone. Tim Keeling, General Manager, Qualmark, New Zealand. So from a Qualmark perspective, we're working with a growing number of hotels in New Zealand, close to 200 hotels at this point in time, and really providing those properties a star grading that they can present to their customers based on industry best practice. So the work we do with the hotel sector is really important to make sure we keep that best practice up to date. But we're really pleased that that represents about 4 out of 5 guest nights in New Zealand are spent in a property, in a hotel with a Qualmark rating.
Afternoon, ladies, gentlemen. Ronnie Ronalde, and part of the Heritage Hotel Group. Yeah, where do I fit into this? In development now, but really going back over the last 4 years, I was part of setting up a whole new brand for the Heritage Group. So going through that, it was looking at all the new properties we were trying to attract and what systems, what modes of trying to grow those businesses did we need to get implemented to them. So it was quite a, when I say sit down, learn the concept of what we're trying to achieve and how these smaller boutique properties could actually encompass a lot of what the bigger groups use where it comes to yielding and growing those businesses. So it was quite an interesting period, you know, dealing with people that are very much, as I'd put it, in a box, and needing the little guidance to get them out of that box and again, grow those business. But that'll do.
So over 40% of people are deciding after they've looked at a web review of your properties, and only 1 in 8 actually posts a review. And this to me links back to what I was saying about structured data. If you have really high quality surveys of your guests in hotels, you'll probably get a 20% response. So a lot more people, if you reach out to them personally, will respond to you than people who just go online. So hopefully that sort of set the scene of where I see reviews and ratings taking place.
Yeah, I guess to add that to that conversation around structured versus unstructured, we see those two tools, particularly in the businesses we're in, is hugely complementary to how these people and our operators are running their businesses. We're seeing the combination of when you're talking to your guests, they're choosing a multiple of things to actually choose your experience. So it's not a linear process that they're going, that's it, that's why I'm coming to your property. They're looking at price, they're looking at location, they're looking at ratings, and they're looking at reviews to validate all of those other things that they've looked at. And I think that's where we talked a little bit, there was a bit of conversation earlier around the Airbnb scenario and thinking about, you know, what does that mean in terms of our hotel offering in New Zealand. And we look at it from a perspective of how do the ratings and reviews come together. So if you take an example outside of this sector, take a bungee jump experience, and you think about what is said on a bungee jump experience on TripAdvisor. It's, you know, my jump master, he was great, he was funny, he told lots of jokes, it was all there for my experience. But the TripAdvisor is not going to tell you that jump master was qualified to tie your knot to bring you back up again. So if you look at those combinations of a structured review and evaluation of your business to give you a quality rating, and how that works alongside the customer perspective of those reviews that can add to that experience.
Well, personally, I don't think it's structured or unstructured makes any real difference. I think the punter is out there wanting some very recent data on those properties or whatever business that they're going to go to make a call if they will go there, and then they go to a travel agent or something else. They've made a call, you know, on that side. They want to find it, and they want to find it now. I mean, I think personally, you know, some of these review places need to be a little bit more respective on the hotels themselves. You know, the grading that am I number one in that little area or not, and how that calculation is done. I think it's very, you know, you own that property, you've had it for 7 years. Well, your reviews are there for 7 years. You've had a refurb in between, you've done a lot of stuff, but you're still being penalised perhaps for some bad comments before you've refurbished. So I think there's a short period that people look at if they're going to go on holiday in a hotel or stay there, and 6 months to a year tops. Outside of that, who goes further down to 147 on the comments? So I think those companies need to be a little bit more respectful of what our industry is about. But on the other side, getting the hotels, the managers, the owners, operators to actually deal to the comments online quickly is another difficult thing. You know, I said to someone before, it's a bit like the OTAs when they first started coming out. I think it was about 15 years ago over here, and a few hotel managers saying, I'll never deal with those buggers, you know. Well, a year later they were all on. And I think it's the same thing with these comments. We've all got to get involved with it because it is affecting your business and dealing to it quickly. And with the smaller properties, you know, as the resources balance of you're there working very hard for long, long hours, to the bigger hotels, they've got more people, but they too have got a lot to do. So trying to balance up the resources to the return of what you're doing is the other factor.
I think one of the most critical things for customer satisfaction, and we see it with some of the reporting we do, is that, I'll just pick some numbers, but if the average satisfaction for properties running it with someone without a problem at 85%, let's say, if they have a problem, it drops to below 50. If you leave it, it drops even further. If you respond in any way, it just needs to be an email, a personal email, something like that, you see them recover somewhat. Not back to the 85, but at least people appreciate that you're listening and responding to them. So that's a critical factor, I agree with you. One thing I noticed recently, probably applies to Qualmark, is the AA in England, which I guess is probably the equivalent, has now decided that they've lost the battle against the social media sites, and on their website they're actually showing people the ratings they give, as well as providing them with an opportunity to go and see what online ratings are saying at that time. Is that something you're thinking of doing? Or?
I mean, I think first of all you've got to look at it. Is it a battle? And I don't see it as. I think these are two very complementary tools, and we see a lot of operators around the country that do very well when they work the two things together. And just picking up on some of those earlier comments around the worry and the stress factor, I spoke to an operator just recently who had 199 reviews and had just had their bad one, their first bad one, and they were losing sleep. And it's about putting some of these in perspective, that one bad review actually could validate your reviews of your business, and you're sitting there with a 4-star Qualmark property. So your customer looks at that, they see those. So we very much see it as a complementary tool. It's not a one or the other. It's not one thing's going to influence someone to come to your property. And probably just to give an example to that, we've been doing a lot of work with TripAdvisor, and we're really pleased that as of today we have a partnership with TripAdvisor where your Qualmark star rating will now be displayed on your TripAdvisor listing. So if TripAdvisor is this huge site that we know it is, we know our consumers are looking at there, that's just another way a hotel operator can get their proposition and that validation of the reviews and their quality through a site like that. So I don't see it at all a battle. I see it's about another tool in your arsenal that's going to affect some influence on someone's decision to pick your property over the other property down the road.
No, very well put, and I agree with that. I think a while back I was asked to comment on this, and I saw it as equivalent to a stool. You know, if you build a stool with 1 or 2 legs, you're not going to have a very comfortable seating position for a while. So in my view, there should be a number, at least 3, maybe more, that you start to use as areas to go and look at in terms of ratings. You saw the percentage differences we saw earlier between your own guests telling you what they think compared to social media.
And
So I think
can I just add one more thing? And there are a number of online channels that do it very well. If you take even Booking.com, they are combining user reviews with official star ratings from Qualmark, for example. NewZealand.com, AA Travel in New Zealand. There are a number of sites that are using those things to give more, and they're giving their real estate up to help influence someone's decision to actually choose your property.
I think it's a good time to ask, is anybody on the floor, do you want to ask any questions?
Yeah, I've got a question here for Tim. In Australia, the Star Ratings Australia has just it's transferred its management of their rating program to the Australian Motoring Services. And I saw a quote online just the day before yesterday from one of the people involved in that who said, "We believe that the consumer must have a voice in our scheme, and we're excited at the prospect of working with industry to incorporate consumer ratings and reviews to ensure key choice drivers such as service, value for money, and location are recognised." Does Qualmark have any plans to go down that route as well?
Thanks, Michael. I think it's a really good question, and it is something we're looking at in terms of, and it is this whole conversation about these two tools. And I think from a Qualmark perspective, we take a lot of weight in terms of when we're going into your business, we have a set of best practice that we're looking at. Our team goes and makes sure that they review what is being said about you online, whether it be on TripAdvisor, what is that online sentiment of that conversation, because that really helps us pick up key parts in the businesses we visited in terms of where those strengths and weaknesses are. I think it's a strategy being looked at in Australia around making sure that it doesn't go down a path where it is one or the other. So for our point of view, looking at opportunities where partnerships with the likes of TripAdvisor, with the likes of the online travel agents to help get that message about the difference between a consumer review and a rating is really important. So at this stage, we're not going down a path where we're going to formally integrate consumer reviews into our grading system, but we do take a lot of notice of it when we're actually going through that process, and we're putting our emphasis in our partnerships on working with those pretty significant distribution channels like TripAdvisor, like WhatIf, like Booking.com, like NewZealand.com, to make sure we're working alongside those things so that we get that validation of the reviews and the rating.
I think the other thing that you've got to be cognizant of is just because you don't like the review on your hotel doesn't mean it's not valid. And there's two ways to look at that. Is it factually incorrect? For example, the swimming pool didn't have a hotel. You know, obviously TripAdvisor will change that. The swimming pool was dirty, that's a different matter. So you've got to be conscious of what, it's very emotive. We all have our, most people I've met have a love-hate relationship with TripAdvisor, but you have to have a relationship with TripAdvisor. You have to get over yourself and move forward with it.